I'd already had a hell of a good day, and I was about to have a hell of a good night, and the only thing standing between them was a 2-mile trek across the National Mall to my hotel room for a shower and a buzz, because holy fuck is Washington, D.C. sultry this time of year. So there I am, rivers of sweat running off my tits, pit stains joining in the middle of my shirt, keenly aware that the Washington Monument isn't even quite the halfway mark, when I come across some 16-year-old Christian kid with a megaphone. Now, this is nowhere near the first Christian protester I stumbled across at Reason Rally. Hell, Eli and I had spent the better part of the afternoon tracking down Christians to troll, and you'll be hearing audio evidence of those adventures throughout today's show. But this dude was both the youngest and the angriest, so even though I could have probably filled a stein by wringing out my shirt, I stopped for a few minutes to observe. So here's his angle. He's got a little megaphone and he's screaming into it like he doesn't know that it already amplifies his voice, and he pauses only when his lung capacity demands it. He's condemning everybody who walks by him as an evil sinner, even though he's like a full mile away from the epicenter of the rally, and at least half of the passersby are just random tourists that have no idea that atheists are afoot. So he's barking shit about how we all know our lifestyle is sinful and evil, and when we spend eternity burning in hell, it's going to be all our fault. A couple women walk by, he declares them lesbians and starts going off on the evils of gay marriage. I mean, the odds that these two women were lovers is vanishingly small, but they seemed pretty amused by it. So when they refuse to take him seriously, his eyes fall on me. Now, I'm alone, so apparently he can't accuse me of faggery, so instead he calls me a masturbator. And as you might imagine, my laughter temporarily drowned out his megaphone. A filthy masturbator, he says, as though those are fighting words or whatever. And I nod because I am, in fact, a filthy masturbator. I had masturbated as recently as that morning, which is at least part of the reason I felt no need to wander the streets of D.C. screaming at strangers about what they did with their dicks. Now, I couldn't out-yell him, but I could certainly sign to him, so I do my best charade of, yes, I love to masturbate. You can probably imagine what that looks like. And this got him even angrier. So he starts firing off every effort and insult that he's got in his quiver, and he's missing like he's a fucking stormtrooper. He calls me a pervert, a fornicator, a sodomite, and an abomination. I'm like, he's 4 out of 5 here, and yet I remain frustratingly uninsulted. So I'm just nodding along to his tirade. He calls me a fag lover. Again, it's a badge I wear proudly, even if that's not the way I'd phrase it. And by now, a couple of other rally goers have stopped to watch this, right? And I can see he's getting angrier and angrier as each new aspersion elicited even more robust rounds of laughter from the peanut gallery. A minute later, an actual gay couple shows up and he turns his attention to them. And in possibly the single greatest moment I have ever been witness to, these two dudes responded with a prolonged, passionate kiss that included a little hand-on-ass action. I mean, they may not even have been gay. I'm pretty sure I'd have French kissed a dude in that moment just to see the look on that kid's face. It was glorious. I mean, if he was any more turned on by this sight, we could have played ring toss. But when he managed to gather his wits, he redoubled his fulmination, except this time his pitch is about 2 octaves higher, and he starts going off again. Of course, in the moment, this is all fucking hilarious, right? A random stranger had, after all, just called me a masturbator. But if I was a better person, it wouldn't have taken me so long to feel sorry for the kid. You know, he almost certainly had some gay tendencies that he was being told were evil thoughts the devil was implanting in his brain. So his defense mechanism was to scream himself hoarse in the miserable humidity of a summer afternoon in D.C. When I was his age, I spent my Saturday afternoons smoking weed out of makeshift bongs and pretending our band didn't suck. But if I'd popped out of a less opportune vagina, I probably would have been doing the same fucking thing. I mean, I'd laughed at the kid. I mean, how could you not? But he was very clearly the exact victim that we're in this thing to help. Of course, I took comfort in the fact that I'd spent most of the day talking with this same kid at different points in his life. I mean, I'd met him 10 years later and 20 years later and 30 years later, and by then, he was an avid fan of the show. He was a passionate atheist, motivated no doubt by all the fucked up stuff his church had shoved into his head. And as I mulled this over, the pity that had replaced the anger found a new target. I mean, sure, I still felt sorry for the kid, but even more than that, I felt sorry for the people that convinced him to be there in the first place. Because statistically speaking, he's almost certain to wake up one day and realize that it's all bullshit and that he was used by a heartless church leader that had no qualms about demonizing a child and then sending that same child out to do the dirty work they weren't willing to do themselves. Because based on the conversations I'd been having with listeners, the best formula for making a dedicated atheist is a strict religious upbringing. You know, it's impossible to imagine that he didn't go home with an itch in his mind about how all the people he was condemning seemed to be having a lot more fun with life than him. A life where you can touch your dick and not have to apologize to any ghosts about it. A life where you can be gay and the people around you don't hate you because of it. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but I can say for certain that he learned that there is a life without a fear of hell. And I'm pretty sure that that's atheism's strongest selling point.